Content marketing is hard, but we're going to make it a little bit easier for you today on today's podcast. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Content Creators Unite, the show where we discuss all things content creation. So if you want to learn how to grow your business using your blog, newsletters, books, and more, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Clements. Our guest for today's episode is Dave Polykoff. Dave is the co-founder and CEO of Zenpost, a brand and content strategy agency that teaches entrepreneurs how to show up consistently on the right channels and attract, convince, and convert their audience into leads. So Dave, welcome to the podcast.
John, thank you so much for having me on. I know we have a similar passion for content and branding, so I know today's episode and conversation is going to be a fun one.
We do indeed, and I agree with you. So I gave the briefest of introductions about who you are, but just tell all the folks listening at home a little bit more about your background and how did you get to do what it is you do?
Yeah, so I'll give you the quicker version. It all started back in college. So I took an internship to get some beer money over my junior year summer and started at this very small online reputation management company. And so this is around the time where ranking things on Google was very easy, just kind of keyword stuff, right? And so there was a whole business model around it where you could control, if you Google your name, if you didn't like what was coming up, we helped you control those search results. And I like to say that I learned more in that summer with that business than I did in my 4 years at college trying to get a degree in marketing and business. That business then, which was conveniently called brand.com, went on to skyrocket over the next few years. I was employee number 3. I saw it go to 103 employees over the next few years. One of the fastest growing businesses in Philadelphia at the time, and was just in the room with really smart people, learned a lot about business, learned a lot about branding, just really understood the power of what it meant to control your online presence at this business. Unfortunately, saw that skyrocket to 103 employees and then quickly right back down to 3 employees. They were selling the furniture at the end there to make payroll. So everyone's kind of got their version of that story, I'm sure. Went on to be in a separate startup that dealt with sponsored content, which was working with publications and brands and being kind of the broker between them. So if you were a brand that wanted to pay for an editorial piece on a news publication, you would pay the news publication to have that article written about your brand and then published. It was marked as sponsored as such, but it was kind of the Wild West at the time. So we were kind of pioneering what it meant for sponsored content and what were kind of the legal aspects of it, or was the balance between editorial and sponsored and things. So that was really just learning about the power of quality editorial, working with some really great brands like Home Depot and Staples and such. And then eventually I kind of just, I understood what it took to launch a business. So I got the itch and did it myself and launched an initial company called Presto Media. And that was a content agency where we worked with other news publications, software companies to create really engaging content to help them achieve some sort of goal, whether it's eyeballs to monetize or sponsorships or signups to their software. Over time, 2020 happened, and we saw everyone kind of started to leave their W-2 job and started to become a coach, a consultant, a realtor. Really, like the Me LLC, personal branding really started to take off. And around that time, we were also working on our own personal brands, me and my business partners, to help grow our business. And we found kind of a mix of a passion for that, along with just the direction of where things were going in personal branding. And we kind of just took all our knowledge that we had throughout those years, branding, content, et cetera, and packaged it into a product. And so now that's an agency we have now called Zenpost, which is done for you content, social content, to help you amplify your message online, grow your online presence. And then I work with coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs on an individual level as a personal brand consultant, helping them kind of craft their message and then utilize some of these resources to then amplify it.
Nice. So I can tell just from, our 5 minutes of conversation, you're a smart guy, you're a talented guy. There are a lot of things that you could have done with your life. So what is it about, brand and marketing that excites you? Like, why do you keep showing up every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Why do I get out of bed? Really, well, it's really personal branding specifically because
Hmm.
I do believe that investing in yourself is the greatest investment that you can make. Right? We can put our money into the stock market or into crypto or whatever, but we're out of the control of what happens next. And we're investing into a business, and we're hoping that entity is able to thrive with our money. But when we invest in ourselves, we're betting on ourselves to the end here until that grave. And we know that every dollar we're investing into ourselves is only going to better ourselves the next day. And so we see that kind of compound over time individually. And so I just love this concept of like betting on yourself, understanding kind of what your superpower is, like why the thing that's about you that throughout your entire life you just thought was just second nature to everyone until you realize that everyone kind of comes to you for that thing, not knowing that like, wait a second, you don't know how to build a website, or you don't know how to do this or whatever, right? It's just second nature to you, but for everyone else, they're willing to just like throw money at you to solve that problem. I just love that everyone kind of has that superpower that's sometimes hidden, and needs to be kind of brought to life. And even then, people just don't know how to translate their competency into a brand that then allows other people to know the value of what they know. And so I've gone through my own kind of hero's journey with that, with just understanding what makes me unique, what kind of skills I have, and then needed to figure out how I'm supposed to communicate that to the world. And it's a struggle, and it costs people a lot of time, aggravation, and money. So I just kind of love helping people solve that for themselves, and help them not just help themselves, but then help their clients as well.
Yeah. And so actually you mentioned that, it's one thing to like find your superpower and understand what it is, but then it's a completely different thing to communicate that out to a world that may or may not even be listening. So that really brings up like the $60,000 question, which is, okay, why is posting content so darn hard? Like, what is it that makes successful content successful? How can I do it? And why is it so hard?
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll start with just the real quick note about why post content in general, right? And as I say, top of feed, top of mind. The more that you're out there letting people know what you do, they may not have that need right then and there. But the more you're top of mind, as soon as that need occurs, they know who to go to. So content essentially, like regardless of how hard it is, why are we even doing it? Because we need to know the why, so that to
Mhm.
help us get through
Yeah.
those tough times of it actually creating it. But yeah, what working with my clients, some of the top two reasons that it becomes so difficult for them is one, they don't know how to translate efficiently and effectively what lives in their head, what's second nature to them,
Mhm.
the information and knowledge and experience and stories that they have in their head into quality content. They don't know how to package together a story, an effective story that hooks someone in and then educates them and then has a call to action. And so, yeah, it's really just they don't understand how to package the information that exists in their mind. Um, and the other thing is the actual process of creating content can sometimes feel so difficult with different softwares, and sitting down in front of a computer with the blinking cursor, white page problem, and trying to conceptualize what to write. And, video is a huge content style these days. And it's really critical for coaches and consultants that need to show up and express what it's like to interact with them. But not everyone is camera ready all the time, or has the confidence to be in front of the camera. So there's kind of just like a confidence, and a lack of technical skill that people lack, that those skills and confidence to be able to just kind of sit down and do the work efficiently. Which, shameless plug, we understand at Zenpost, which is why we have the done for you system. Pretty much our goal is to take what's in your head and translate it into quality content for you. And another reason why people say, it isn't true, but it's the number one reason people say they can't create content, is because they don't have the time. They don't. There's no time in the day to be able to create content, ideate content, edit, publish, etc. And I guarantee you, if your life depended on it, you could find an hour to create a couple posts. But we put that false wall in front of us for why we don't create content. I think because of more of those other reasons I said. It feels too much like a burden, too much technical skill, and the fear of either being on camera or putting yourself out there on a personal level within some sort of post.
Yeah, I actually agree with you 100%. I think I try very hard not to say I don't have time for X, because the reality is I'm either afraid of X or it's just not a priority. And that's okay if it's not a priority. But I need to know in my own mind what it is. And yeah, time is almost never the issue. There's always something deeper.
Right.
So if we think about, so let's imagine like let's say I am the person you just described. Maybe I lack confidence to get in front of a camera like we're doing right now. Maybe I don't know what to write about. Maybe I've been taught to not brag about myself, and it feels like bragging. Let's say I'm not quite ready to jump into the done for you camp just yet, although I'm interested. What's one thing that you could tell me, like, okay, John, well, you can start down the road, and here's one or two things you can do right now that will help you to get over some of these fears or to get that first post out there in the world?
Yeah, well, a good first step, if you don't want to dive into the deep end of content creation, is start commenting on other people's posts and give some actual deep thought into that comment, right? So whether it's a video or a text post, or even if it's an image, really take the time to consume that post, understand what that person was trying to say, understand the core themes there, and then reflect on it and go, what unique perspective do I have on this topic? Or what story do I have that could maybe correlate to what this person's talking about? And then craft a comment, a longer form comment back to that person on their post. That has a couple things. One is, if you do this with either potential clients or with other thought leaders in your industry, you're starting to create that relationship just by nature of engagement. But two, you're starting to practice what it means to actually conceptualize and ideate a concept and put it into a framework and post it. Now, it's not being posted on your feed, it's being posted to a comment, but you're at least going through the process of it. And so you'll start to feel a little bit more comfortable with, like, yeah, you know what? I actually do know what I'm talking about. Like, that was a good response. And maybe they even comment back like, oh, this is very insightful, great points. Maybe you're getting a couple likes. You're building up your confidence. And at that point, you can go, okay, you know what? Maybe I want to start, putting these on my own feed, or maybe I should start a podcast and talk about these things. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, just sometimes you do just have to jump into the deep end and start posting. And the early days is what I like to call the puberty phase, where you're trying to, everything's a little bit awkward, and you're trying to fit in, and you're trying to be like the cool kids and sound like the cool kids and look like the cool kids. But everything isn't necessarily as smooth or insightful as you'd wish, because it's day one for you, right? It's like going to the gym when you're all scrawny, and you're going to the gym and you're seeing these big bodybuilders over in the corner. They've been at the gym for 5-10 years, right? They've built up their muscle. They know how to do the workouts. This is day one for you. You're just kind of figuring out how to do a bench press or whatnot, and you're only benching like 30 pounds. So you need to go through that awkward phase and just get the reps in. That's the number one thing. I've interviewed dozens, if not hundreds, of personal brands and successful personal brands. And one thing I asked them is, like, how did you get so comfortable on camera? How did you get so good at content? And they said, I just got the reps in. There's no other way besides just figuring it out along the way. Again, if you're not going to do the done for you side of it and you're going to do it yourself, you just have to practice. And so when I started my own podcast, I was worried about being on camera, worried about how I was going to be on as a host of a podcast. But all I did was just get the first guest booked and had it on the calendar, and just dove into the deep end and got the second one booked, the third, fourth, and I just continued to get the reps in. And now probably at episode like 100 and something, and it's just second nature to me. Like, it's easy for me to do it. But if you compare that just to episode 1, obviously it's night and day. So sometimes you just have to actually start, and early days people may not even be paying attention. So who cares at that point? But once you get really good at it, people are certainly going to start paying attention.
Yeah, and that's really, as I've experienced the same thing. I think there's a lot of power in just starting something and just being okay with the fact that you're going to suck at it at first, and it's okay. Like what I found is, yeah, you might suck at it, but you know what? Your friends are still going to be your friends. Your wife, your partner is still going to love you. Your parents are still going to be there for you. Like it doesn't. We make such a big deal of failure or whatever, and it's just not the truth.
What I find is those who would maybe, I don't know, laugh at you or say any type of negative feedback, those aren't the type of people that you would want any type of feedback from anyway, because clearly
Mhm.
they're not in the right growth mindset and supportive mindset. That maybe something's going on in their life where they're not able to do it or whatnot. Those people who are successful didn't start day one as a success. They had to go through the process that you're going through now. And so anyone who's successful can respect the day one person and the grind and the uphill battle they know they're going through. And only other successful people will support you early on in your career because they want you to win, right? They don't have anything to lose. They're already, at the top of the mountain, if you will. So it's, yeah, I mean, if you're only going to see success or support. I remember early on in my content journey, I was worried about, what would friends, family, colleagues think or whatnot. But then as I just posted, people were starting to reach out of like nowhere. People from high school I haven't talked to in years would reach out and be like, just want to let you know I've been watching and following and I'm loving your content. Like, keep it up. It's inspiring for me. So yeah, sometimes I think we just get a little too in our head that we're going to receive negative feedback, but I think we'll be pleasantly surprised that most of the feedback we receive ends up being more supportive.
I think so too. And you could probably, speak to this. Tell me if I'm wrong, but this has been my experience getting in. So I started out podcasting as a guest and then I jumped into hosting. And I'm here to tell you, like, if that's something that you think you could do to grow your brand or your business, I have not met a more supportive, positive group of people than podcasters. Like I've had literally one bad interaction in like a year of doing this. So I'd say, yeah, do everything Dave said, jump in because we're here to support you and we want you to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, it was all day one for us at one point, and we've
Mhm.
all gone through the ringer. So it's a band of brothers at this point. We all know each other's hurdles that we've had to go through, and we're all trading war stories together.
Oh, for sure. So I want to jump topics a little bit because you run a company called Zenpost, and like you said, it's a done for you service you provide. So one thing when I was on your website, I noticed was that you use the word or the term brand transformation as that's a service you provide. And I've kind of seen that term floating around a lot. I'll be honest, it feels a little buzzwordy to me from my perspective. That doesn't mean that it is, but that's just how I interpret it. So I was wondering if you could just explain to us kind of like what does that even mean? Like if you transform my brand, I don't get that. Like what does that mean?
Yeah. So the big thing with our clients is they're typically struggling in a hamster wheel of thinking that they've figured out the language that needs to be said, the topics that need to be talked about in order to attract, convince, and convert their ideal client online. And they're finding that they're wrong, that something's not working. And they continue to show up every day and stay consistent, but they're just not finding that success or whatever that definition is for them that they want to achieve. And so that's why they're coming to us to basically diagnose, what's happening here, right? Like why aren't I getting those inbound opportunities like people always talk about you get with content? Why aren't I getting those business opportunities, et cetera? And so what we do is start from the beginning and go, okay, we're not going to just start creating more content. It's not like a volume thing. It's not a channel thing, right? Maybe you're on the wrong channel. A lot of times it's starting actually at square one and going back and looking at the messaging, the branding, the positioning, the number one thing that they want to be synonymous with, and making sure that all of that is optimized. And many times completely reinventing what they currently are trying to take to market. So we kind of call that like the relaunch plan, where they're already out there trying their best, but something isn't clicking. So we need to kind of go back and rework your branding, your messaging, and kind of relaunch you into the market with a better, clearer map, better, clear messaging, and the right magic words to use, and the right magic topics to talk about. They're going to be more fitting for what your target audience wants to hear, and will entice them to engage or take next steps. So really, we kind of just liken it to the idea of, in those movies when there's kind of like the ugly duckling character, and then they go and they get their beauty makeover and they spin them around in a chair, and they're just glamorous, and it's the close-in shot, and it's like that's their makeover, right? Their transformation. All of a sudden, they took off the glasses and took
Yeah,
out the
that's what
ponytail,
I
and
was
all this.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're beautiful, right? We're doing more than just taking off your glasses and taking out your ponytail, but yeah. So it's like that. But we want that moment for you is like, listen, there's the beauty in there. There is like that transformational moment. The story that you have, the offer that you're providing, the testimonials that are behind you. All of this is like that beauty that just needs to be kind of packaged better. And then, at the end, we kind of love that moment of just kind of metaphorically spinning him around in the chair to be like, this is the thing that you should be talking about in this way, with this kind of brand visual identity. And that's kind of the transformation that we talk about.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So I like that you're not telling people completely change everything you do and who you are, but rather it's like, look, you have value, like you have worth, you have good ideas. We just need to work on the messaging a little bit, basically.
Yeah,
Get
like it's
that
one of those
messaging
things,
dialed
like,
in.
again, it is everything is already there. It's just most entrepreneurs don't know how to put the puzzle pieces together to like make the beautiful full puzzle. Everything's kind of just dispersed, or you're missing some puzzle pieces, or you're too focused on a few of them. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of like clarity, really, just like wiping away the dirt in some areas, polishing some things, making sure, refining the language, um, to be what your target audience wants to see, and being kind of the beauty version of what your clients are looking for.
Nice. Now I noticed, so that was Zenpost. I noticed on your personal website, and we'll have links in the description, so don't worry if you're listening about that. You offer like a free personal brand kit. So is that another way that someone could at least, start this journey of transformation?
Yeah, and it's actually something I'm actively even building out even further. But so for those, tip my ideal client, someone who's gets the best results from me, is someone who already has a personal brand, and is, again, actively out there, uh, already knows the value of content, and is trying to publish content, trying their best at different marketing channels, but things just aren't clicking. But there are those that want to launch their personal brand. Maybe you're a C-suite W-2 employee, and you want to make the transition into a solo business, a me LLC, and you want to figure out what those first initial steps are. What do I have to think about when it comes to like the designing of that personal brand, the business model? What's my niche? How do I package together an offer? What are the tools I need in order to run my solo business? And so I still want to support those people too. So I have a kind of a launch kit, a personal brand launch kit, for those who are interested in kind of making that dive into personal branding, and help you kind of get from 0 to 1 with that. And then, once you kind of figured some of those things out, connect for the next step in that evolution, which is, again, really crafting that messaging and then amplifying that through content.
Yeah, and I love that you got it set up to where like literally anybody at any point in the journey can reach out to you. There's something of value that they can get from you to get them further down the road. So I'm so happy you've taken the time to like think about this. It's not just like, yeah, I'm just in it for the money. It's no, we really do want to help you get better.
Yeah, I mean, I nerd out about every step of the process, right? You talk about why branding, and it's, again, I love helping people avoid the landmines that I stepped on along my way, right? Things like, even when it comes down comes down to content creation, people get worried about what equipment should I use, and do I need a fancy camera and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of this is also just kind of letting them know, don't overspend on certain things at first. You're not going to focus on what you're saying and not how you're saying it initially, and kind of evolve into that. But anyway, I want to avoid people kind of overspending money or focusing on the wrong things early on. And a lot of the launch kit is to help you just find that focus point.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. All right. So with the few minutes we have left, I really enjoy getting to know what people do for a living, because that's wonderful and it's so helpful. But I also like getting to know what people do when they're not working, because at first and foremost, right, we're human beings, and that's important. So I'm going to assume that you have good boundaries in your life and you're at least not working some of the time. So assuming that's true, what do you like to do for fun?
Sure. Well, first top of mind will probably be I'm a cat dad. So I don't for those who are wondering, I don't dislike dogs. I just have a cat. It's usually always the thing, right? You have a cat, so you don't like dogs. No, I have a cat, so it's my first son. So we have a lot of playtime there, but also big into fitness. So I have a personal trainer here in Philadelphia, constantly going with to him, and also happens to be one of my best friends. So we hang out on the weekends as well. But I live in Philadelphia, so I'm a big sports guy naturally. So our Eagles are doing really well
Mhm.
right now. So naturally, getting together with friends and family and watching any sports team, Philly sports team, specifically the Eagles recently. Big into running. So ran a couple half marathons. I have a half marathon coming up in March, I believe. I'm starting to train for. And yeah, Philly's just a really great place for the restaurant scene. A lot of historical stuff here, and they're always putting on events and such. So typically, just kind of a man about town, and seeing what's new around the city.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. So we have two cats, so I'm right there with you.
Nice.
And
All right.
yes, I don't hate dogs. I just like other people's dogs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like to pet the dog and then give him back.
Right.
But that's
Right. I like
cool.
to.
Yeah.
It's like babysitting, right? You're there for
Yeah.
a little bit, and then it's you take
Great.
back
Now
over.
you go. That's too much energy for me. I want the cat
Yeah.
that's just like, oh, you're here. So, all
Right.
right. That man, that's cool. Cool. So so you've done so much stuff in your life already. I know you've got so many more amazing things, in store for you. But what's a piece of wisdom or like a life lesson you've learned? Could be work related, could be just life related. What's something you can tell our audience that can help them just be that much better of a person, after hearing this conversation?
Sure. A handful of quick quotes come to mind, but one that always is kind of like a when I'm feeling lazy, or just like not as confident in myself as I normally am. This is a quote actually from my very good friend and personal trainer, as I mentioned before, because he'll say it in the gym when we're together, but he'll scream out, "Who do you want to be?" And it's such a simple concept, but it's one of those things like you have to look at future you, and you're always working today to support that future version of yourself. So it even comes down to like your diet, and you want to go have that really terrible McDonald's meal or something, or you don't want to go to the gym and work out today, or you don't want to work on that business thing that you need to do. It's kind of that reminder of just like, who do you want to be? Who's the future version of yourself that you're striving for and you're working for today. And put in the energy and the time and the commitment today in order to support the future version of yourself. I just think it's a good way to kind of smack yourself in the face whenever you just feel like being lazy today.
Yeah. We have a 16-year-old, and we're trying to help him understand that that's the reality of life. But then I think a lot of times as you get older and you kind of forget that lesson. So thanks for bringing that up again, because I'm the same way. Like I need to make sure my future self is my friend as well. Right.
Right.
Like I need to stick up for that dude.
Yeah. Imagine, like, there's so many times, if I didn't eat right or something, and the next day I got like, I'm going to bed with like indigestion or something, or I'm waking up and I'm just feeling like, sluggish or whatever. And I kind of shake my head at Dave from yesterday who made that
Yeah.
decision. But then there's times I'll do the opposite, or I'll go get that workout in, or I'll put in the extra hours at work. And future me is like looking back like, oh, thank God I did that. I feel so great, or this thing's done, so it's not on my mind anymore. Yeah, to become best friends with the future version of yourself. I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
summation of it all.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, it's been great talking with you. So much valuable content, so many just resources you've let me and the audience know. Last question: if people want to learn more about you, get in contact with you, take the next step, where can they go?
Absolutely. So you can go to davepoly.com/pod. So that's DAVEPOLY.com/pod, POD. And that will pull up a kind of one sheeter that has a bunch of links off to everything that you'll need to either get in contact with me on my socials, or the launch kit, as we mentioned, or if you're interested in some of the services or consultation, one-on-one consultation, there's some links to that as well. So everything you'll need will be in davepoly.com/pod.
Awesome. Well, Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure today. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, it's just been a joy, man. Just been a joy.
I agree. I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, I knew we were going to relate on a lot of things. Who knew we were both cat parents as well? So yeah, I
Heck
figured.
yeah. So all my cat lovers out there, what? So
Yeah.
anyway, I won't do that again. If you enjoyed our discussion today, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I bring on amazing guests just like Dave, and I just pick their brain, and then you get to be the beneficiary of that. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. And with that, have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Content Creators Unite podcast.